We've got some breaking news out of the NFL where the Chiefs are trading all-pro cornerback Trent McDuffie to the Rams. That is according to multiple reports. As part of the deal, Kansas City will receive a package that includes the 29th overall pick in this year's draft, as well as 3 other picks. Also, McDuffie has spent the first 4 years of his NFL career with the Chiefs. He tallied 63 tackles and 7 passes defended in 13 games with Kansas City this past season. All right, let's welcome in our NFL analyst, Tyler Sullivan, here to break this all down. So Trent McDuffie is going to the Rams. Tyler, what is your first reaction to this? As, of course, we were hearing from Leslie that this is an area of concern for the Rams just yesterday, and the Chiefs are getting a whole lot in this swap as well.
Well, we finally, Jacqueline, have our answer as to what the Rams' plan is with their 2 first-round picks, right? You have to remember, they also have the 13th overall pick in this draft, thanks to that trade they made a year ago with the Atlanta Falcons. The pick that they're trading today to get Trent McDuffie, that is their own. And we were kind of wondering, right? Like, what are they going to do here? Obviously, they're a team that is firmly in a Super Bowl window, trying to match a team that is legitimately in a Super Bowl window, addressing arguably their biggest need, and they still have close to a top 10 pick at the NFL draft. So the Rams certainly coming out rosy here.
And Tyler, you mentioned it. They are still in that Super Bowl window, really trying to maximize the time that they have left with Matthew Stafford. They were right there with the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC West, and it just felt like they were maybe 1 or 2 plays away from getting to a Super Bowl. So how much does a move like this move the needle for them if they do want to get back there, get back to a Super Bowl and win one?
Yeah, no, it certainly does. Again, you're talking about legitimate all-pro talent now coming to Los Angeles, and this is a smart move for Los Angeles because, and you referenced it there, they were right there. They were going neck and neck with the Seattle Seahawks, and that was the team that ultimately was able to get out in front of them and go on to win the Super Bowl. That team is in their division. They're only going to be more competitive in 2026, and don't sleep on the San Francisco 49ers either. They were riddled with injuries a season ago. They're going to be back in the conversation. So if you're the Rams, you can't just go say, hey, listen, we're just going to kind of, spruce things up a little bit, but we'll be back because we're so talented. We're going to be back in that conversation. That's not the case. The competition is going to be raised next season. So adding a player that you are addressing at a position that you are addressing to be a clear weakness, that's going to help you against Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's going to help you against Brock Purdy and the weapons they have in San Francisco. So this does put them, or at least keeps them in the conversation as a legitimate Super Bowl threat. I don't know if it thrusts them as the odds-on favorite to win it next season or come out of the NFC, but it certainly keeps them in that top tier of bona fide Super Bowl contenders.
Tyler, when we think of shutdown corners that are out there in the league, Patrick Surtain, Sauce Gardner, where does Trent McDuffie stack up with corners like that?
Well, it's going to be interesting, right? Because this is the underlying story that we're going to have to figure out now with Trent McDuffie. He's in the final year of his contract. So when we're talking about what the next moves are here for Trent McDuffie and the Los Angeles Rams, they're giving up a first-round pick. That, to me, tells me that they are going to now sign him to a long-term extension. And does that now put him in the range as the highest-paid cornerback or one of the highest-paid corners in the NFL? He's going to be thrown into that conversation where we're talking about, a guy like Christian Gonzalez is going to be due for a contract. And you've seen these guys over the last handful of years really be at the top of the league in terms of what they are being paid. And I think Trent McDuffie certainly has a seat at that table to not only rival to be one of the highest paid or the highest paid corners in the NFL, but reputation-wise, he is a stud. Top 5 corner in the league in my estimation. I just referenced it, a 74.7 passer rating against last season in a defense that did struggle overall with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think if you put him in a defense now with pass rushers like Jared Verse to help you really kind of pressure the quarterback and maybe make those mistakes, I think that we're going to see a really strong production from Trent McDuffie next season. And whether or not he inks a deal before then, he's going to be playing like a top 5 corner.
Now, on the Kansas City side of things, Patrick Mahomes is already on X reacting to this news. And the Chiefs are getting that 2026 first-round pick from the Rams. What do you think they should do with that? What moves do you think KC should make with that pick that they're getting here in this trade?
So this is interesting from the Kansas City perspective, because on the one hand, when we talked about it with the Rams, we're saying, okay, you're maximizing what you have with Matthew Stafford. Right now, I think that this is a savvy move for the Kansas City Chiefs from this standpoint. And we're talking about this quarterback right here who doesn't seem particularly thrilled with the news, but he is coming off of a season-ending injury. And what is he going to look like in 2026? The optimistic view, right, is that he's going to be ready for week one. He's just going to look like Patrick Mahomes, and we all hope that that's the case. But I did wonder, even at the time in the aftermath of that injury, I do wonder if 2026 could kind of be a pivot year for the Kansas City Chiefs to gear up for that next era of the Patrick Mahomes era in Kansas City at Arrowhead. What is it going to look like? How do you retool this roster? Because Travis Kelce's only getting older. We're going to see this roster starting to age here a little bit. They need to retool around Patrick Mahomes, and one way to do that is by acquiring first-round picks. So we're talking about, now that they have the number 9 overall pick, now they have a first rounder late in the first round this season. So you're going to be able to add 2 blue chip players. Now, whether that's on the offense or defensive side of the ball remains to be seen. But I think that this is an effort by Kansas City to kind of begin that process, right, of retooling around Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he's coming off of the season-ending injury. Maybe this is a sign that they're looking at 2026 as a bit of a retool around him as he continues to recover.
Yeah, we have to say retool, but you can't say rebuild when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, right? Tyler, we want you to grade the trade for us. If we can pull up those trade details again, just to lay it all out there. Trent McDuffie, of course, going to the Rams. The Chiefs are getting a plethora of picks, including the 2026 first-round pick at number 29. Grade the trade for us, Tyler.
So just from a knee-jerk reaction, I lean for the Rams to be the winners of this trade. I'll give them an A here because, again, you're getting an all-pro caliber corner, and you're trying to maximize this window that you have with Matthew Stafford. So I would give them the edge in this trade. I always get a little bit weary when we're talking about purely draft picks in return. Of course, you'd love to have a first-round draft pick. You're loving the return from Kansas City that you're getting, but you also have to hit on those picks. So there's another side of that coin. It looks good right now in terms of the slew of draft picks you get in return, but you also have to hit on those. So there's another domino to fall there for them to really land on their feet. So I'll give them a B overall. Again, you're getting a first rounder in return, but you are losing a premier player at a premier position.
Tyler, we certainly appreciated joining us for this big breaking news here, where the Chiefs trading all-pro cornerback Trent McDuffie to the Rams. We have a lot to look forward to in the NFL, even though it is the offseason. It's never really the offseason, right? We have all of these dates, including as we push ahead to the NFL draft in Pittsburgh, kicking off on April 23rd.